There's an epidemic of vitamin D deficiency. In today's world, we're living inside, not outside, and the way you make vitamin D is from sunlight. We don't get in the sunlight between the hours of 10 and 2. That's the only time that UVB rays are there. So unless we're there, vitamin D isn't going to be made, and that's why we're finding that there's a pandemic, literally, of vitamin D deficiency. And we might think, well, it's not the biggest thing in the world, but vitamin D is a hormone, and it does a lot of functions in our body that are absolutely essential for well-being. Most of us don't realize that the risk of diabetes goes up because insulin resistance goes up. We know about osteoporosis and vitamin D, so that's one we do know about. But the heart attacks and the strokes and the different kinds of cancer, breast, colon, and prostate, the incidence of those goes up. There are a wide range of illnesses that we are suffering an epidemic from because of vitamin D deficiency. Now, vitamin D is necessary, and we can't make it if we don't get exposed to UVB rays. And keep in mind that UVB doesn't go through glass, it doesn't go through clouds or smog or fog, and you simply have to be in the sunlight to get it. Tanning booths can work if they have UVB rays there, and that's one way to do it. But our levels are so low that most people have to supplement. Even people who get out in the sunlight between 12 and 2, unless you're exposing a significant amount of your body to UVB rays, you're not going to be able to make enough vitamin D. And most of us are wearing sunscreens now, and we're going outside, particularly in most times of the year when it's not warm, with our clothes on, our face exposed with sunscreen, and maybe just our hands exposed to the sun. That may expose less than 5% of our body, and you're not going to make much vitamin D that way. So it's critical that we be in the sun for anywhere between 10 to 15 minutes if we're light complected, or something like a half an hour if we're really dark complected. And that should make adequate vitamin D. But as we age, we make less of it. And keep in mind that if you're swimming around the pool and you make enough vitamin D, the chlorinated water will wash the vitamin D off of your skin, and you'll still once again be vitamin D deficient. And that's why we're seeing this epidemic in this country of vitamin D deficiency. So if you take one message home, it's that we need, the best way that you can make vitamin D is to get sunlight the natural way. Taking a supplement may take somewhere between 1,000 units for somebody who's just a child to 5,000 or 10,000 units, depending on whether or not you're making enough of it for the particular condition you have. We know that for people who have immune dysfunction, that particularly large amounts of vitamin D might be necessary, because it's quite interesting that when you have sufficient vitamin D on board, it allows our immune system to be able to fight viruses and cancer better, because there are two different kinds of immunity. One where we're making antibodies against different kinds of foreign invaders, and the other is where we're using cells to fight against virus infections and cancers. Vitamin D actually shifts our strength of our immunity from making antibodies to fighting viral infections and cancers by stimulating the cell production so that can happen. So there is a lot to know about vitamin D. We're in an era where we're learning a lot more about it. We'll be talking much more on this site about various aspects of vitamin D deficiency and some of its functions, so you may want to review some of those areas on the site. But keep in mind, the best way to get your vitamin D is to get out in the sunlight. Next best, you may have to take a supplement.